Thank you everybody for joining another video in our series on our ISV Showcase. Today we've got the guys from Continia again with us, Deepak and Martijn. Thank you very much for joining us today. How are you guys?
Thank you for having us. Very good. It's a bit hot here in the Netherlands. We're not used to this.
Well, the same in the UK for sure. At the time of recording, this is quite a hot moment where we're having a heat wave. So depending on when you're watching this video, it might be cold or it might still be really warm. Today we are going to have a bit of a discussion around the Continia Document Capture. So obviously we want to just understand what, or give our audience a bit of an understanding of what document capture is. What does it, give everybody in terms of the capabilities of the document capture? Like, what are those features? What is, how do you see that help people? So I think maybe if I kind of start off with a first question, Deepak, in terms of like, how do you, like, where does document capture actually fit in? Let's go with that.
What a great question. So document capture is Continia's flagship product. It is the leading AP automation tool that exists inside BC. So we're talking about the finance office. And if you think about the finance office and the kind of manual processes they go through every day, especially when it comes to paying invoices, just think about what that's like, right? Receiving hundreds of invoices via email, having to read each one, then going around and thinking, is this a genuine invoice? Should we be paying this? Asking people around the business, getting their approval, making sure the numbers are correct, matching it against orders, and then coding it, sometimes manually, into BC so that it can be logged in the various ledgers, and then actioning it and actually then creating that into a payment file that can be sent on for further processing. That is a hugely manual process for the finance office, and that is the problem that we solve by automating it end to end.
I think that's like speaking to our customers and prospect customers too. There's always this thing of people going, their AP processes might take so much time, or they have, it's one of those things where you have a bunch of invoices that are like someone's has this pack next to their desk, and it's like, well, what are we doing? Like now somebody has to go in and add and like you said, manually key those things in. And I think, it's for us to understand, like, how can we help people to kind of like eliminate this whole pack of, stack of invoices that's on their desk.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you mentioned on the desk. Back in the old days, you used to have a spike where you literally used to have a pile of invoices that you used to have to process. Thankfully, I don't think there's many businesses that do that now, but that doesn't mean it's still not a manual process that needs to be manually done by several people in the finance department. Now, it's not just the manual process that can create problems, right? That creates inefficiency. You've got humans involved, and if you're anything like me, you might press a 6 instead of a 7 on a keyboard and make an error. You might miss an invoice while you're going through a list of invoices through your emails, right? And that's all well and good. We're all human, right? But what happens as a result of errors and inefficiency in that process? Well, what if a supplier doesn't get paid and stock doesn't get released in time?
Yeah, exactly that.
What about the relationship with those suppliers? What about early payment discounts or even late payment fees that might be incurred as a result of it? You're now starting to talk about real business impacts of not getting this process correct. Our objective is to really optimize that process, make it faster, make it more efficient. That's what we're trying to do.
How do you see that with obviously people that you work with in terms of once they've implemented the Continia Document Capture, like in terms of those efficiency gains, is there a big conversation around like, how have people seen the difference, before using Continia Document Capture versus after the implementation of Continia Document Capture? Do you see there's what that efficiency gain is? Do you have some insight on that?
Yeah, look, it really varies from business to business, of course, right? Because it depends on how efficient or inefficient your process is. And people think, well, hang on, if we've got an accounts payable automation team and we automate accounts payable, what happens to the team? Okay, and from our experience, the biggest ask of an accounts payable person is they want to do more. They want to move away from manual entry, and they want to get into more productive, more useful processes within the finance department, and that's typically what they do. They get greater utility because let's face it, it's not fun reading off an invoice and punching it into Business Central all day long. They want to do more. And Martijn might have more to add here.
Yeah, and if I may add, of course, we try to make the life of the accounts payable team a lot easier, but also think of the approvers. Instead of a stack going through the office where a stamp needs to be put on,
true. Yeah.
everything goes digitally now, so that it goes a lot faster. And also, there's no more physical archive. The archive is now digitally, and you can look everything up from within Business Central. It will save you many time on many fronts, I would say.
I guess even that, like for auditing purposes, is a good thing. Like it's easier for auditors. If auditors come in, it's again having that place that people can then just log into Business Central and the auditors can see everything instead of you having to find other files for them, or the auditors coming to ask you for, like, we're looking for this invoice, where's the document that relates to this invoice? And I guess, like, again, people can see all of that in Business Central, right?
Yes, and everything is logged from beginning to end, including comments, any additional attachments. So you got a complete overview what happened with the document from beginning to end, basically, which not only makes the business owners happy, but also the accountants, and we need to keep them happy as well, right? Yeah.
Keeps the flow, and everybody knows exactly where everything is in one place from there. That's good. In terms of like, obviously in this world of AI that we live now, like, is there, and I guess obviously we're going to have a demo in a bit around Continia, but like how are we looking in terms of like what AI features is there that like help with Continia Document Capture? Like, is there anything specific users should be looking out for?
So I think, yes, AI is incorporated actually in all of the Continia solutions. We have AI as the core, right? That will make life of the users easy. It will have great function. It has great functionality in it. But there's maybe, and this is a bit of a sidetrack, the word template is now a bit of a dirty word within the accounts payable automation. But AI is great, but it's not perfect. It will make mistakes, and it will learn, but not as good as people think as it does. So see this as like you have a car with an engine. That's the AI, which is perfect. It's a nice shiny Porsche, but without a steering wheel, the templates, it's nothing.
What are you gonna do?
Yeah, what you're gonna do is it's not gonna move anywhere. So yes, we use AI, we use our software and the human touch, and if you combine that all together, things will become predictable. And that's actually what finance teams are looking for, I think.
Yeah, it's building off of that, and I think it's a good point. I think there's a lot of talk and everything about AI, but it's understanding where that fits in and where it does really help in a solution. So yes, and that obviously you'll show us some of those features and everything.
Absolutely.
In the demo that we go forward and we go with in a minute.
One of the points that would be worth talking about here is security. Okay, and look. We're humans, and where AI can have a real good impact as well is by picking up things like duplicates. It can read the invoice and say, hang on, this invoice has been processed already, or there's a change on an invoice or change on bank details. The system picks that up and says, hang on, this is unusual. Would you like to look at this? So it really is helping us bring things to the attention of the accounts payable department and address them easily, because 9 times out of 10, the accounts payable department will know, oh yes, that supplier told us they were changing bank details. It's completely normal. But that one time they didn't, or that one time that a fraudster got into their system and put their bank details in, well, you've managed to catch it and avoid money leaving the business fraudulently.
And I think that's a big, like, you hit the nail on the head on there, like the whole, vendor bank account details. Like, if you can capture that before the invoice gets processed, having to flag that to a user is key, right? We see that multiple times talking to customers. Again, it's like how can we check that the bank details match? How do we check that they were correct before actually doing the payment? So yeah, I think, you know, that's a big call out that you just mentioned there, which is a key factor for sure. Yeah.
We're progressing when it comes to AI. In the future, we may move towards a more agentic approach. Who knows? The world is changing. We know Microsoft at the moment has got the beginnings of some agents coming out, which are great for some use cases, but at the moment they're still in their infancy and they're developing up their real capability. So for many more complicated and more complex AP departments and use cases, it may not be providing the automation value yet. Yeah. Software like Continia that's tried and tested, that works, and the finance departments are used to using, solves the problem. But in the future, I think we'll see AI have more impact on our own solutions as well through an agentic route as well.
Yeah. So like good point, good topic over there. And I don't mean to put you guys on the spot at all, but on the topic of the payables agent, obviously we have that now in Business Central, and you know, it comes as part of the product. How are you guys comparing, you know, the payables agent with Continia? Because people are obviously looking at the payables agent. There's new features being released on the payables agent, and people have to pay for it in terms of the Copilot credits. So it's also for us, it's trying to work that out in terms of like cost wise. Is Continia actually the better solution in terms of how many documents is being processed? You know, do we look at Copilot credits versus Continia Document Capture? How are you guys seeing that, and like what is the impact for yourselves with the payables agent versus Continia?
This is a really great question, Andre. We love the payables agent being here. It's validating how much of a pain that the AP process is. It's validating that it's a hugely manual process that can be automated well. And I think that's the first point to state, right? Now, do we compare ourselves with the payables agent? Well, if you think about it, we both work on automation of a process within the finance department. So you could draw similarities. Yes, of course you could. Why wouldn't you, right? We both ultimately are trying to achieve the same thing. But the effectiveness of it, as I mentioned at the beginning, is something that is as a useful comparator. When you get a process that's more complicated, that involves various upstream and downstream processes like matching against POs, goods received notes, auditing requirements, more complicated approvals, well, that's where a simple AI agent may not yet have the capability to deliver automation on each of those points. Now, that doesn't necessarily matter because one of those points may not be hit yet. But if you think about a throughput, about a pipe, if you crimp a pipe at one point, that becomes the throughput of the pipe. So if you really want to streamline that process and avoid automation, avoid humans and achieve automation, then you really need to automate that process end to end and hit every kind of box that needs to be hit. And that currently is something that finance departments put their trust in Continia. In the future, 2-3 years down the line, I'm sure we may have our own agent that does something similar and is a user interface arrangement for our document capture product. It's a natural progression in a direction we are likely to go in ourselves. But at the moment, our view is, it's a great thing that this is happening, that the payables agent is there. Our partners and our customers are feeding back that if you've got a relatively simple use case and a low volume of invoices to manage, the payables agent can add value to your business. Yep. Once you ascertain the pricing, and as you mentioned, the pricing sometimes can be difficult to really understand how much it may cost. But as soon as you step into a more complicated real-world scenario involving several processes, several people, several other upstream and downstream requirements, that's where the software may be prevailing currently.
Okay, I think, Martin, sorry, did you want to add to that?
No, I think Deepak's story is true. And we also got a lot of questions from partners and customers like yourselves. Is there like a benchmark between the agents and Continia at the moment? And we say no, because AI is moving so fast and yeah, what we create this week is old again next week.
True.
But maybe some broader use cases that we saw is, for example, also around approvals. The approvals of the payables agent, yes, they have an approval flow, but not as extensive and it's not as applicable to businesses in the real world that we see at the moment. That can change, but at the moment it's not. Also about support. You as Bearing Point, you get trained by Continia, you invest in training with us. If a customer has a problem, they can call you and you can probably solve it. And in the worst case scenario, you will call us and then we will solve it. That will maybe be a bit more difficult with a bigger party like Microsoft, where the payables agent is a small factor of the big picture. And for us, this is our bread and butter and our focus. And yeah, we want to keep the customers going. And those are some things to take into consideration as well, I think.
Yeah, definitely a fair point. Yeah, for sure. I think, you know, Deepak, what you mentioned too is like it's balancing going, you know, what the volume of transactions is, because you are right, you know, we see some customers with, it might just be a few transactions. You go, actually, the payables agent is perfect for them, or, you know, whatever their requirement, it was a simple requirement. And it's trying to understand those two. But I think another interesting thing is that you guys are clearly, you know, you have that. Obviously, you'd have to have that at the back of your mind going, you know, what are you guys doing as Continia to build something else yourselves? And no doubt we'll see something in the future that you guys are secretly working on the background that aren't, you know, not saying anything to anyone at this minute. But I have no doubt that there are some secret things happening behind the scenes to work on something great. So yeah, no, I think that's interesting insight for sure.
Hopefully not too secret. We pretty much said that we may be going down an agentic path in the future. So that's pretty much going to be the story, I imagine. We see the agentic approach as a user interface, right? Really, it's helping users manage the problem more effectively in a way that they want to engage. And wouldn't it be great to provide customers with the choice? If you want to engage with an agent, you can. If you want to use software, you can. Yeah, that's great.
Keeping the human in the loop, I'd say. So
Right.
Absolutely.
Martijn, did you want to take us through some Continia demo and show us what you have?
Absolutely. So let me share my screen. And I think you can see my screen now, right?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Yes. Important, as with all of the Continia software, it is fully integrated into your Business Central. That means you do not have to open up a separate application, nor API connections are being built. Business Central is open. Document Capture, in this case, is there. We made sure that you get to see a role center as the accounts payable team, where you can see a lot of things that are relevant to your day-to-day job. For example, over here on the left-hand side, you can see how many documents came in. They can come in 3 different ways now. One, of course, via the post. We do not see it that often, but it can happen. You scan it in, it gets sent to Business Central. Number 2, an email address, invoices@yourcompanyname.co.uk. Document Capture will monitor that email address and downloads the invoices directly into Business Central. And now a new important point, e-invoicing. In Europe, legislation was being made that governments are moving away from sending out invoices in the PDF format towards e-invoicing. It's a transition that's happening now up to a couple of years. And this will also be happening in the UK. The UK government agreed on this, and they will all B2B invoicing will be done in the UK via the e-invoicing way at 2029. Sounds far away, but it's only 3 years.
Yeah.
The good thing, though, is that we as Continia, we became a broker or a certified payable access point, basically meaning we can onboard you as a customer to the different e-networks out there. Not just the one in the UK that will happen in a couple of years, but also to the ones in Europe and even worldwide. Actually, now we see a lot of traction among UK customers that do business with European companies that they're required to do this. Yeah, we can help you with this.
Right. Yeah.
Of course, we got approvals, and the approvers can see how many documents they have to approve. They can see that in the role center. But let's continue. So I already emailed some invoices to my demo email address, and this is basically the screen where you will process the invoices from now on. On the right-hand side, you get to see the original invoice. You can zoom in and zoom out. You can scroll through it. On the top left, you got your to-do list. In the middle, the data that the system captured for you, and down below, the comments. You're going to set up each vendor one time, and next time it can go in automatically, and therefore saving you a lot of time working on the invoices. The setting up of the vendors or the template is not difficult. The AI picks up almost everything from the invoice. The only thing you're going to set up is this is going to be a cost invoice, and I wanted to set it to general ledger account A or ABC. Or I want to set it up as matching. I want to match this invoice against a purchase order within my system with these criteria. I want to add my dimensions, like my cost centers or my project codes. Do it once. Next time it goes in automatically. So as you can see, the system still shows you what it actually did, which is nice in the real world. If you select the invoice number, it highlights it where it found it on that particular invoice. We've also built in like validations. If I select, good morning, the due date right now, on the bottom left, the system will compare the due date on the invoice to the payment terms that you have within Business Central. If they do not match, it will give you a warning, and you can manage these warnings. You can also put it to like a showstopper or a warning, or maybe just don't want to know. Or you can say, you know what, whatever they say on the invoice, I'm always going to honor my payment terms because my Business Central is leading. System found all of the amounts. It validates all of the amounts. Multiple VAT amounts on one invoice are not a problem. And what we can do now, this is a very simple example that I want to show you. It's a cost invoice. We will be able to open up your general ledger account like you're used to. You can scroll through it, or you can type it in. I'm going to press OK. And it will say, do you want to use this as a default? Yes. And now I've basically set up the first vendor. After a couple of days of training from Bearing Point, you'll also be able to do this in less than a minute. It is not difficult. You can then register the invoice and then also send it for approval. And with Continia, you can automate at your own pace. When this solution gets introduced to the accounts payable team, they need to trust it in the beginning. That will not happen overnight. It will happen based on result, see how good we are, capture everything consistently. And then what accounts payable teams can do, seeing, well, this invoice from First Up Consultants went through 5 times now without a hitch. When it comes in and all the fields that I've set up as mandatory are found, register it immediately and then send it to the approvers based on the flow that I've designed. So then what you're working towards is that you only will be able to see the invoices in the screen that have an error on it, a mismatch, or maybe it's a new vendor. And that's how we greatly reduce the time the accounts payable team has been working with this part, manually typing everything in.
I think that's a key thing to kind of like how we see it too is, you know, as you exactly as you mentioned, is like people need to gain trust on it, because it's no point trying to just automate it and then you end up with all the errors, or there might be issues with it and people lose confidence in that when they're already just trying to automate everything. So having that step-by-step process, it's a key part of it. So, you know, building it up, as you mentioned, oh, this invoice has come in 5-10 times already. It doesn't have an issue. It's everything's being picked up properly, and then flowing that through like that, just that trust going, okay, we've got this, it works. Let's have that automated process. So I love that functionality that just kind of puts those processes in place, gain the trust. Yes, it's working. Right. Let's do the next step. So you're left with those exceptions, exactly as you mentioned. Like that's a key part. That's that whole automating process and speeding things up, right?
Exactly. It's not happening. It will happen quickly, but not overnight. And it's nice that you can see it working and do it at your own pace. Yeah. Maybe we hear a lot of AI, of course. Well, we have it in here as well. With as you can see, with this particular invoice, all of the header information was captured. I could code this to one general ledger account. But what I actually want to do, I want to capture these particular lines and then say I want to code the London share to general ledger account A and the Paris share to general ledger account B. Before AI, we could also do this, but it was a lot of work. You need to basically drag a lot of boxes around the header fields. Then it would capture all of the data underneath. You would need to start filtering to make sure that all the lines are perfect. Nowadays, it's easy. Now AI really comes into play. I open up a different page where we're going to capture the lines. Well, actually, it's not, the action is not that spectacular. The result is, if I press AI, capture to recognize the lines, and without me having to do anything, all of the lines are captured. And this really works. If you got 3 lines, 50 or 100, it will capture them all. And now you can basically code it to your liking, saying this goes to general ledger account A, and the second line goes to general ledger account B. Besides coding it to a general ledger account, that's the benefit of being fully built inside Business Central. You can also code it to an item number within your system, a resource, a fixed asset, a charge item. You can code it how you want it to be, and it will remember that for you. So the next time you order the same chair, it will fill in the general ledger account for you. If I register this document now, you can now see we got 3 lines over here. And of course, I didn't mention it in the beginning. From now on, you get to see the invoice all throughout Business Central, also when you look it up later on in the archive.
And that's the, like we mentioned earlier when we had that discussion, is that auditing purposes. So we open a document, we've got that copy of the actual invoice directly in Business Central to the right-hand side for the user always to see that.
Exactly. Before I move on to the approval process, AI works, of course, on capturing data of the invoice, but it will also help you with some other things. For example, we got a new vendor. Document Capture does not recognize it. In the past, you would go to the vendor card, you would start typing everything in, going back and forth. It wasn't that nice. Now we have a functionality called Create Vendor. It will look at the invoice, capture all of the details. It will apply your posting setup rules based on where the company is based. And then I can press create and it will create the vendor for me. And those little things, or that little things, maybe we also incorporate that into Document Capture to make your day-to-day work a lot easier.
That's a good little feature. Exactly that, you know, how many times people do get an invoice, you know, there's
Absolutely.
some services, especially like service invoices might have been delivered, you know, they then come in and it's like no vendor's been created, then to go back in, actually go and create, you know, going to a different screen, like the capabilities of doing that in the screen, I think is far easier. And also it's using the OCR technology already to pick up all the names and everything. So you don't have to enter it. That's
Correct.
cool. That's cool. Yeah, like that.
This is what I wanted to show you in a couple of minutes, how we process the invoices. We can do a lot more, right? I only got a couple of minutes, but yeah, if you want more in-depth, a more in-depth demonstration of this, contact Bearing Point and we'll be able to set up a one-on-one with you and your team and go a lot deeper. For now, the approval, I think, and that's where I want to end with as well. With the approval, we can do that in 2 places. One in Business Central, but also you have a lot of people who do not work in Business Central. What we've created is called a web approval portal, which basically allows you to approve anywhere in the world as long as you have an internet connection. And then you can approve on your iPad, on your phone. Doesn't matter. And also a benefit is that you can do this with a cheaper license than a full user license in Business Central, so it will also save you money. We then have multiple approval flows based on vendor, based on an approver and an amount, based on dimensions. It can go quite far. We have email capability that you can send an email once a day, once every 2 days. We can have reminder processes in place. It goes quite far. Let me quickly show you how the web approval portal looks like. And it looks simple, but that's also what we want. It needs to be easy. Not every approver is a Business Central user, so this will make sense to the people. You get to see an overview of the invoice. At the top, you can look up in the archive, what did I approve last week? If you're enjoying a nice holiday, you can set up an out of office and then the invoices will be forwarded to somebody else within the team. And if I click on an invoice, you get the invoice nice and clear on the right-hand side. You can zoom in and zoom out and scroll through it. Next to that, you can add attachments and comments. And again, we talked about this in the beginning. Everything will be logged from beginning to end. On the left-hand side, some details of the invoice. At the bottom, the lines. And you can even give people permissions to make changes to the lines. And you can go quite far with these, saying you cannot change anything, you can change some, and you can change all. And maybe an example of this, if I click here on the general ledger account list, I only get to see about 7 general ledger accounts where I'm allowed to make changes on. We can approve it, we can reject it, but we have to fill in a reason why. Otherwise, the accounts payable team doesn't know what's wrong. We can forward it in multiple ways, put it on hold if there's a query. If I press approve, it will automatically go to the next one. Everything to speed things up. And we are done.
And clearly, like obviously we have this approval portal that you're showing now, but any changes and things that you make in this portal, those changes all flow directly into Business Central. So, you know, we're not having to kind of duplicate any work, right?
No, correct. Everything that you do in the web approval portal is effective immediately in Business Central. In Business Central, the approval is actually the exact same, only it will look like Business Central. I didn't have an example here, I forgot to send one, but you get your overview of the invoices, your lines, your comments, and the picture on the right-hand side. And then at the top, approve, reject, forward, on hold. Everything is the same, but just gives that flexibility to the end users. Well, I don't know, Andre, am I allowed to talk 2 minutes more to showcase the final thing to the audience? Yes? Okay.
Please go ahead.
So now the invoices are at the final stage, the release stage, and released invoices can be posted. You can do this one by one in a batch, but you can also automate this part, saying every day at 6 o'clock, all the invoices with status released will be posted automatically. And I'm going to do that right now, actually. I'm going to post them. And then we actually have done everything from beginning to end. So a quick recap, an email box gets monitored. That's what's mostly being used. The invoices get downloaded into Business Central. The template that you created with the help of AI will capture all of the details that you want. And if everything is okay, can automatically be forwarded to the approvers if you want that. The approvers will get a notification via email. They will approve quickly. It will come back here. You can do a final check manually, but preferably you post it automatically as well. And this will greatly reduce the time the accounts payable team, but also the approvers and other people are spending on these types of documents.
That's, yeah, again, you know, once you have that automated process, where can people see that if there are documents, for example, that, you know, we've had this automated flow, we're happy, everything's flowing through, but there might be a document with an error and I need to check things. Where can the users see that in terms of any errors that might be that they need to look out for?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's nice. That's also maybe what companies already used to. You can just open up your purchase invoices list within Business Central and you can see the statuses. It's open, it's rejected, it's sent for approval, it's now approval at Andre. It will give you a complete list of where everything is like you're used to. And then if you click on an invoice, you also get the document capture features added into it. One last thing, and then I'll promise I'll keep my mouth shut, but of course you can ask me questions, Andre. But
I've got questions. Hold on. But you can...
I know, I'm getting so excited now. So, but how to find documents back? So we have a functionality. You can search for any word that is on the invoice. So you remember you bought some chairs last year, London chairs, I think they were called. But where did we buy them? I have no clue. I can type in the word London chair and it will find every invoice with that word on it. Everything is fully text searchable. And then, of course, you get to see a preview of the invoice immediately on the right-hand side. But you can also open up the document card and it will show you the details that were captured that particular date. You can open up the PDF file, of course, and you can print it out or send it to a supplier if they're asking for it. We can also open up the email where the invoices came in with. If you go to the chart of accounts or to the vendor card or to the posted purchase invoices, the invoice is now everywhere within Business Central. If I click on the balance, just a standard general ledger account, boom, you get to see the invoice on the right-hand side. Super convenient when you're working on a general ledger account.
Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah,
That's a massive time save again. If people are looking at the general ledger, to be able to see that instead of actually navigating to the document again, like that's pretty good. I like that.
absolutely. And now you can ask questions, Andre. Throw them at me.
Well, I was going to ask you about order matching. So essentially, like obviously, if people have purchase orders and they're doing a purchase order process, like is there, how can we match the purchase orders to the invoices when those invoices come in?
Absolutely. That is one of our unique selling points, I would say. We can do order matching in 3 different ways. One, we can match on a total amount level. Is the order worth £1,000? The invoice is worth £1,000. It will match and then it will go through. We can also match on a line level where we can see, did we receive 20 whiteboards for £500, 10 chairs for £25, etc. So then you will go into a lot more detail. And when you go into that detail, you can also now do partial matchings. You can match multiple orders on one invoice to multiple orders in the system. You can set up tolerances per supplier. So there's a lot of extra added functionality when you activate line level matching. You can also do manual matching. We do not want to do that often, of course, but in real life, a vendor can also make a mistake. They put up a wrong order number, or they forgot to put up the order number. Then you would tell the system one time, it's this particular order. Or if you're really strict, you can refuse the invoice and send it back to the supplier. So I would say the matching, it knows immediately if the invoice is matched against your PO within your system. You can automate this, and then you would only see in the list of the invoices that are not matched or have a query. And then you can even send them from here to the purchase ordering team in Business Central with comments, and they can take action.
Yeah, I think the flexibility on that, again, the things that you mentioned is being able to either just do it on total amount or doing it on the line level, because again, people have different requirements, but that flexibility to go, it's either on the amount and we're happy to just process that, or we actually have to check, especially for stock invoices, for that inventory that's being received. That's a key part for some of the customers to actually get that specific line level. But obviously where it's service invoices, as long as that just matches the amount and we're happy that that's been processed through, that kind of makes sense, and kind of happy to process that through. The other question I have is around kind of dimensions and things too. So people might have specific dimensions, or like I assume that dimensions in maybe even in conjunction with, and this might be a separate question, is like VAT registration numbers. Like, can that be used to kind of determine where the invoice or to where the invoice needs to be placed or where it needs to go to? Like, how does that work?
The answer is yes. So because you're fully integrated into Business Central, you can add any Business Central field into like the template and capture that data of the invoice. Think of your dimensions. What we do when we install Document Capture in your Business Central, we will add all of your dimensions that you have, not just global dimension 1 and 2, all of them. The user can just say, okay, I want to add the department in this case. And then the user can do 3 things. 1, they can every time select the department, which is manually, fine, but we want to automate. Number 2 is put in a fixed value. This invoice always goes to department administration. Or you can make it dynamic. I think you said the number, to let the VAT number determine which department it would need to go to. What you can then do is say, okay, I'm gonna put an orange box around VAT number, and with my right mouse button, I'll select this value. As you can see, nothing has happened because we do not have a dimension called GB and then 8 times 4. So what I can do, this is actually quite advanced, but it's easy. I'm gonna say, if you see GB 444444, put that on department administration.
So you can create a translation essentially to say if it's this value,
yes,
it actually needs to translate it. Yeah, that's massive. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, and I mistyped. It's 9 nines. 1 second.
Right. We understand. It's okay.
It never happens in a live demo. 1, 2, 5. let's see. There we go. And then it fills in administration. And next time it has another VAT number on there, it can put it to department sales. And of course, this will correspond to your dimensions, right? But yes, you can do that. And you can have multiple dimensions. And for example, the invoice that we had with 3 lines, you can quote the different dimensions per line. Yeah.
Yeah,
yes.
That's another, like, as you mentioned, that your dimensions per line, it might be, you know, those dimensions might be determined when the invoice comes in rather than when it's, you know, and we can then dynamically kind of just set that based off of the text on the document, which I think is good. And the thing that I quite like too, which you showed previously, is the flexibility to add different fields on here. So it's clearly, you know, it's very customizable in terms of what people require to be added on there. So I think, again, you know, you're not, because, and that's the thing that I love about Continia products, is that it's fully integrated into Business Central, and it giving you that flexibility of, like, because we're fully integrated into Business Central, it means you have the fields, you have the functionality that's available, you have that, you know, how you've created the product to be flexible, to add additional fields, to use the functionality that's there. Like, it plays a massive role because we're not doing it in 2 separate systems plus an integration then, essentially.
Correct. Yes.
So yeah, that's great. Yeah, I mean, anything else that you'd want to show us, or anything, is that kind of you know, is there any other features or
well, maybe not show, but worth mentioning is, I would say, purchase invoices and credit notes processing is our bread and butter. But we can do a lot more. We can also process sales orders. We can process purchase orders, purchase receipts. We can add contracts to contact cards within Business Central. You get a lot of other categories standard out of the box, and you can start using them. So we also have, for example, a lot of customers using this for their sales order processing. Which will save them a lot of time.
Yeah, so the flexibility is there. Again, it's, you know, being able to use the OCR tool for the other areas from there.
Correct. Correct. Yeah.
Well, I think, you know, thank you very much again for your time. Deepak and Martijn, is there anything else that you wanted to add? Like, this has been, you know, a very helpful session. I really appreciate the time you guys have taken. Anything else you wanted to add on Continia Document Capture?
I think Martijn's covered it really well, and given you a great demo. If you're a Bearing Point customer and listening to this and you're interested in finding out more, please contact Bearing Point, and we are here to support Bearing Point with anything that they want to know as well. So we can help you address each and every question you may have. Looking forward to hearing from you.
Perfect. Thanks, guys. Again, appreciate the time and effort that you've put into this. And yes, if anybody, as Deepak mentioned, if there's any other questions or things that you want to know, see Continia Document Capture more in action, please reach out and we're happy to help from there. So thanks, guys. Appreciate that.